Hi, here's a question for you. What does food waste mean to you? Australians waste about 4 million tonnes of food annually. That's enough to fill 450,000 garbage trucks. When placed end to end, the convoy would bridge the gap between Australia and New Zealand just over 3 times. We either cook too much food, we forget to use our leftovers, we don't check the pantry or the fridge before we go grocery shopping, we forget our shopping list, or we shop when we're hungry, which means that we buy more food than we need. So what's the big deal? Besides food rotting in landfill, giving off a greenhouse gas called methane, which is 25 times more potent than the carbon pollution from a car exhaust, every time you waste food, you're wasting the water, the fuel, and the resources that it took, as you'll see in our other videos, to get that food from the paddock to the plate.
Hi, I'm Ed from Branin, and this is where we turn packaged food waste into beautiful cattle feed.
Aussies throw out over $8 billion of edible food every year. That's over $1,000 on average by every household. But what people think is waste perhaps isn't actually waste.
So here in our premises, trucks come in and they've got huge bins of packaged food on, up to 10 tonnes in a bin. That gets tipped out on the floor, and we then use a front end loader with a big bucket to pick up half a tonne at a time. We then put that food straight into what I call our don't want, do want machine. We turn things that people don't want into things that people do want. And of everything that comes into this store, 99% of what comes in gets turned into something that's useful again. So the front end loader picks up a big bucket full of what is packaged bread here, pours it into the feeder at the start of the process, which then meters the product out. You can't have a big lump of food going in, just like you can't fill your mouth with 50 grapes. The individual loaves then get fed into a large mill that we've built, and this is quite a unique mill. Not only can it cope with the packaged food, but other things in it, because we get all sorts of things in the bin. We get pot plants, we get filing cabinets, we get old computers, because we try and make it very easy for the waste producers. My biggest competitor is landfill, and it's a very efficient competitor. It puts a single bin at your feet and you don't have to think. You can just throw everything in there. And that's why landfill takes millions of tonnes of waste every year. Until we make it as easy as landfill, that problem will remain until you are very, very old. We need to change it. It's not sustainable to put food in landfill. So we put the single bin down. They throw what is 90% food in there with other things, and we also try not to handle it by hand too much. That's not sustainable. You've got to do it with machines. So we've designed this process to be mechanical and also to process at a very high rate. We process this stuff at up to 20 tonnes per hour. What that means is it's got a low cost of production. That's really, really important, because at the end of the day, the product needs to be affordable. If you're doing an individual piece of bread at a time in a process that is built around that principle, the cost of the product at the end is too high. It won't sell. If it doesn't sell, there's no point recycling. So we're getting these products in thousands of tonnes every year, and we're processing it with mechanical means at a high rate to create a low cost product, which is cattle feed that turns into milk and meat on dairy and beef farms. So the product goes into the machine, into the mill that breaks open the packaging. The mill can also cope with the strange things, the pot plants, little bits of concrete, stainless steel machinery that we get in without breaking. The mill breaks open the packaging. That then goes into a sequence of screens, and it's very much like gold panning. Gold is heavy, it sinks to the bottom of a process, the lighter things go to the top. Here, the lighter things are plastic and paper, the heavier things are bread. So if you throw that in the air, the bread will fall down first, the lighter things will fall down second. We use that simple principle to separate the two. The plastic and the paper get vacuumed off using a big vacuum cleaner. The bread goes into a further process. We do have one person in our machine who controls the start and the stopping of the machine. That person's the king or the queen of the machine. They are also taking the strange things out, like for example, fabric gloves, bits of machinery, bits of copper cable that come in with it. There's not a lot of that. For every day we will be processing hundreds of tonnes. We might end up with maybe 20 kilos. But those 20 kilos are what forces the material to go to landfill, unless we do what we do. At the end of the day, a beautiful clean product, essentially in this case breadcrumb, pours out. We then load that into large trucks, and every day that goes out to large farms, to dairy farmers, to beef farmers, where within a day it's turned into milk. That milk comes back to you. So what we're trying to do is close the loop on food production. The food product that we produce, it's a fantastic product. You have to think about at home if you've got popcorn. Now popcorn starts out as corn kernels. If you're going to eat those corn kernels, I can let you know not a lot of it's going to be digested. In farmer talk, it'll shoot out the back end. If you pop it and turn it into the popcorn we're familiar with, it's gelatinized. It becomes what they say highly bioavailable. It is digested and it makes you grow. The same thing in a cow. If it eats something like wheat grain, which isn't milled or isn't cooked, a lot of it is not digested, it's wasted. A far more efficient thing to do is to feed them product which has been milled and baked like the bread. So the farmer, the dairy farmer, will feed it and that will readily turn into milk. So it's a very, very high quality food, which is very, very bad to throw into landfill. So if we can remove the packaging and give it to the farmer, they get fantastic food production. That comes back to you.
It's great to produce food, and and there's the satisfaction of we breed all our own cows and we produce the majority of the feed. And what we don't produce, we still have to source, and so it's the whole package of putting the whole business together that makes it a great job. And if you have a job you love, you have fun for life and you get paid for it.
A builder by trade, Peter has been dairy farming for over 30 years.
Everything helps, and there's always different opportunities at different times. And often it's when cows are short of their natural feed, which is grass. So that can be when it's extremely wet, as well as when it's extremely dry. At the moment we're wetter than average, but it's only 6 months ago when we were far drier than average. So by having the constant supply of bread from the city, it enables us to have a consistent diet for our cows right throughout the year. Because of the availability of the amount, it's been an aspect in us increasing milk production because we'll be able to balance the diet through the day. We're feeding them about 8 kilos of bread per cow per day, and so the bread has been made into a dough, so there's moisture in it. So it's about 60% dry matter, so 8 kilos, less 60%, is just under 5 kilos of dry matter grain. As custodians of land, we always have to manage our land, and so being environmentally friendly is really good for our, it's not just for the total environment, it's for our farm business environment, which is so important to us. Recycling products that we bring in, but we also recycle all our dairy effluent, and that goes back as fertiliser for our maize crop, and then it all goes around in a cycle.